This is Leroy. He's about 8 months now, I think. And he's a Brumby from Central Australia in the desert. Leroy, look at the camera. Good boy. And so he's a colt. He's a young boy horse. Not gelded yet. Hasn't had his balls cut off. So he's a rescue Brumby. He was about 3 weeks old. So it was around November. At the time there was a bit of a drought going on. So a lot of the animals, like the mothers, their milk was drying up because of the lack of water. So other animals like camels and dingoes, they were all kicking off the baby animals because they didn't have any milk. There was a camel yard out where we were living. We're in a remote community, Pipajara, in the APY lands, and they had a camel yard because they were mustering the wild camels out there. And the grandson of the old bloke that runs all the camel mustering, he went out there and he found baby Leroy, about like 3 weeks old, I think. And so they brought him back. And at the time I was working in aged care, so that was like doing Meals on Wheels, and the old bloke that, you know, had the horse at the time, I was delivering lunch to him and he was inside watching TV. So I had to go and bring his lunch inside, and I walked past the kitchen and I'm like, oh, bloody Jesus, that's a big dog. Like thinking they've got some Great Dane or something, you know. And I look and no, it's a baby horse. And I'm just like, oh, horse, like patting the horse, you know. I'm like, oh, it's so cute. Anyway, gave old mate the lunch and left. And then later I was saying, because my mum was there too, I was like, Mum, like, what if I just went back and got the horse? Do you think they'd give me the horse? And she's like, yeah, why not? Go and ask. So I did. And the person, the daughter of the guy, I asked her and she's like, and like, mind you, like he was so little then, he was like this big and hadn't eaten, like hadn't had anything to drink, like nearly dead, poor bugger. And so I'm like, can I have the horse? And the daughter of the guy's like, yeah, like we're going on Sunday anyway, might as well take him, you know. And so she helped me take him to the back of the Hilux or whatever we had then, Ford or something. And he chucked him on the back seat and he was like lying on the back seat, and I went round to the centre where Mum was and I'm like, Mum, look, I got the horse. And she's like, what? This horse is dead, like that horse isn't alive. And I'm like, yeah, he's alive, don't worry. Like, and so anyway, I took him home. And yeah, he looked like shit, and everyone, all the other service providers, they're like, oh no, you know, these horses, they never live, you know, all these know-it-alls. Anyway, he has lived. He's a beautiful little colt. But first we fed him baby formula, like human formula, and then we ordered some foal milk from Alice Springs, and that came on the bush bus. So he was on that for a while. We used to feed him out of a little silver bowl at the back of the door. And then he got really smart and he worked out how to open the door. So he'd come in and, you know, he'd open the door and run in and run straight to the kitchen and start like knocking everything off with his head, looking really cheeky. And we're like, Leroy! And then he'd see you and then he'd like run behind the table like to run away, and then he'd run back to the bench and like take a bite out of every single thing on the bench. Anyway, it was a whole saga, whole drama rather. And yeah, very smart little boy, and we used to take him for walks every day. He was just living in our backyard, not particularly big. And anyway, he got kind of big. Anyway, and then he got about like this kind of size, and then people started taking notice, and He was kind of like the town mascot, like all the anu, everyone in the town, they're like, Leroy, Leroy, hello Leroy. Like they used to yell out to him when we walk him down the street. Everyone would be waving like, Leroy, Leroy, like this. And Leroy would just be like walking past like, yes, you know, whatever. And yeah, so he had fun there. He used to like gallop through the fields, and he had lots of fun. Yes, he did. And yeah, and then eventually we decided we'd just come back to Adelaide anyway. 500 Ks, we'd never floated a horse. Mind you, like I've never had a horse, know nothing about horses. We floated him for 500 Ks over unsealed road, on a dirt road. Then like 1,000 Ks down the Sturt Highway. Oh, it was so, geez, it was just a whole thing. At one point he like got through the front of the float where like it's just a little person hatch, and we thought he was like dead, and oh, it was just this whole thing. And in Port Germain. Anyway, now he's here. He's in Nan, the lovely farm, Friends Farm.
When we brought Leroy down to Adelaide, we drove from Pipladjarra in the APY lands. It was a journey of 1,600 kilometres. We had a horse float that I'd brought there just before we left, and half of it was filled with our possessions from our house up there, and the other half was filled with the horse. And the first 500 kilometres was over a dirt road. There were many challenging things to drive on, corrugations, sand, rocks, all that kind of thing. It was quite dangerous. Fortunately, we only broke down once when we got a stone in our tyre, but somebody came and fixed it, so that was good. It was quite worrying with Leroy in the car, in the float, because at night time, if you took him out of the float and tied him to the float, he'd get tangled up. But if you left him in the float, then he'd try to lie down, and then he'd end up crawling through the front door of the float. And the very last night, the 5th night, when we were driving, he lay down in the float, and then he got tangled up in all the shovels and deck chairs and things that were in the front, and I actually thought he died. It was terrible. He was hardly breathing, but I was able to untangle him, and then he still lay still, and we still thought he was nearly dead, but Ari fed him a lot of apples, and suddenly he sprang to life and just leapt out of the float. So then he walked around the whole town. We just followed him. He looked like he was walking back to the highway. So that was really good. But we got him here in the end, and then he just stayed in our backyard for a couple of weeks till we brought him up to this farm.
He trapped me in the shed at home, wouldn't let me out. So, without under threat of being bitten, he wouldn't let me come outside, would you? Hey, you just kept blocking me from going out, didn't you?
Yeah, through a friend of Veronica's, she got us. So, and just asked if it was all right to have the horse here. And we said, yeah, all right. So we'd worked out stuff, and we're looking after it. It's getting fatter, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's getting plenty of food and water. So, and it plays with the cow and the sheep. So yeah, you'll probably see it later. But like when we get out of here, they'll come up. Yeah.
It's been lucky. It was good for us
Yeah.
that we managed to find him. And they've just been out here anyway with John and his family. As you can see, there are all these other animals here, so he's not so lonely.
No.
And,
We got the occasional kangaroo that jumps through the paddock and that. It'd be all right.
His eyes are actually grey. Usually horses' eyes are brown. He has grey eyes, which is kind of like rare.